This case would make you start believing the devil truly lives in some humans. You really can't make this up. If you don't have the stomach for this, it is advisable you hop off this video right now. Imagine stepping onto a train thinking you're on a routine journey, only to discover that someone on board is watching, waiting, and ready to turn that trip into a nightmare. This isn't a movie plot. This is the chilling reality of one of India's most shocking cases. Welcome to Twisted True Crime Stories, where we uncover the most compelling true crime stories that demand your attention. If you're captivated by stories that reveal the dark truths of our world, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Together we'll explore the facts, seek justice, and stay informed. On November 14th, Gujarat police uncovered a case that would leave many shaken. A 19-year-old girl was found dead in Udvada. It was later confirmed that she had been raped and murdered. Investigators quickly realized they were dealing with something far more troubling than a single crime. This was the start of a chilling series of events tied to one man, Rahul Jat. Rahul, a 30-year-old from Rohtak, Haryana, had a criminal history with 11 cases already against him. But this wasn't just another repeat offender. Over 25 days, Rahul killed 5 people, 2 of whom he also raped. His targets were often passengers in reserved railway coaches for handicapped individuals. These crimes weren't random. They revealed a deliberate and dangerous pattern. The investigation began when police discovered a bag left at the scene of the Udvada murder. The belongings inside pointed to a traveler, and CCTV footage from railway stations helped piece together a trail. It wasn't long before police matched their suspect to Rahul, who had been released recently from Jodhpur jail. Rahul didn't stop after his first murder. He continued, taking the life of a 60-year-old tabla player, Soumitra Chatterjee, during a train journey. She was found dead in a special coach, and her belongings were stolen. This was one of several similar cases. Rahul also admitted to killing a woman in Andhra Pradesh on October 20th and another in Karnataka, each time using the same method. Rahul believed he could move freely, but a combination of police work, CCTV footage, and informants led to his capture on November 26th at a railway station in Vapi. His arrest revealed the full extent of his crimes and a story that would remain a warning to many. On November 14th, the body of a 19-year-old girl was discovered in Udvada, Gujarat. She had been raped and murdered. The case immediately drew attention due to the disturbing nature of the crime. As investigators began their work, they uncovered a chilling detail. The killer had not only assaulted and killed the young woman but had returned to the scene after the act. According to the police, the suspect initially fled after the murder. However, he returned hours later, intending to assault the victim's body again. What he did not anticipate was the presence of bystanders and police at the site. When he realized people had discovered the crime, he quickly fled, leaving behind evidence that would later prove critical. A bag was found at the crime scene. Inside were clothes and personal items that did not belong to the victim. This was the first significant lead. Investigators suspected that the bag belonged to the attacker. They believed it could help trace his movements. The police immediately expanded their efforts to gather more evidence. They began looking at CCTV footage from nearby railway stations. The suspect, based on the items in the bag, seemed to be a traveler. Officers studied hours of footage, hoping to find someone carrying or abandoning the bag. It was a time-consuming process, but they knew that catching even the smallest detail could be the breakthrough they needed. Within days, the footage provided results. Investigators spotted a man wearing a jersey that matched one found in the bag. The footage showed him entering a station and boarding a train. With this lead, police cross-referenced the man's appearance with criminal records. This led them to Rahul Jat, a man with an extensive history of offenses and a known address in Rohtak, Haryana. Rahul, who also went by the name Karamveer, had recently been released from Jodhpur jail. He already had 11 cases registered against him, including theft and assault. Police realized they were dealing with a repeat offender who had likely committed other serious crimes. His history suggested he was familiar with evading law enforcement, making the investigation even more urgent. As investigators worked to identify Rahul's movements, they discovered that he was likely connected to several other crimes across different states. The bag and CCTV footage were the first major steps in building a case against him. Officers expanded their search to include all nearby railway stations and began tracking any sightings of the suspect. The disturbing nature of the crime and Rahul's bold return to the scene made this case a top priority. The police knew they had to act quickly. His pattern of targeting vulnerable victims, as well as his confidence in avoiding capture, posed a significant risk to others. The trail of evidence left behind at the scene became the foundation of an investigation that would later uncover even more disturbing details. This initial discovery in Udvada marked the beginning of a wider search for Rahul and a deeper understanding of the crimes he had committed. The investigators' efforts to analyze the bag and use modern surveillance technology played a crucial role in bringing the suspect closer to justice. The hunt for Rahul had officially begun. In the investigation into the murder of a 19-year-old girl in Udvada, Gujarat, police quickly realized that the evidence left behind was crucial. Among the items recovered from the scene was a bag filled with personal belongings, including a jersey. This bag became a key lead in identifying the suspect. Investigators used CCTV footage from railway stations to trace the movements of the man believed to have carried the bag. The footage revealed a person whose physical traits stood out, a limp caused by polio. This detail, along with the bag, helped police narrow their search. When the man in the footage was compared with known offenders, the police found a match. The suspect was identified as Rahul Jat, also known as Karamveer. He was a 30-year-old man from Rohtak, Haryana, who had recently been released from Jodhpur jail. Rahul was no stranger to crime. His name was already linked to 11 registered cases, including theft, assault, and other offenses. His criminal history showed a pattern of behavior that made him a serious threat. Police soon realized they were dealing with a seasoned offender. Rahul had experience avoiding law enforcement and was skilled at misleading investigations. This made the task of tracking him down much harder. Despite being released from jail, he showed no signs of stopping his criminal activities. Instead, he had escalated to even more serious crimes, including rape and murder. The challenge for the investigators was not only identifying him but also locating him. Rahul moved frequently and rarely stayed in one place. This made tracking his movements difficult. He had learned to cover his tracks, often misleading officers by giving false statements or shifting locations quickly. These tactics allowed him to remain free for weeks after committing multiple crimes. Despite these challenges, the police pressed on. The limp, which initially helped Rahul evade suspicion by appearing vulnerable, became one of the key factors in identifying him. His physical condition set him apart in the CCTV footage, making it easier for investigators to follow his trail. Additionally, the bag left behind at the crime scene was a major break in the case. It contained items that directly linked him to the crime, including the jersey he was seen wearing in the footage. As the investigation progressed, more details about Rahul's life came to light. Born in Rohtak, Haryana, Rahul had started engaging in criminal activities at a young age. He worked odd jobs but often turned to theft and looting trucks for money. Over time, his criminal behavior escalated. His experiences with law enforcement taught him how to manipulate situations and avoid getting caught. These skills allowed him to commit crimes in multiple states without being immediately apprehended. The police faced additional challenges because Rahul's movements spanned across state borders. This meant coordinating efforts with multiple jurisdictions. His crimes were not isolated to one area. They ranged from Gujarat to Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and West Bengal. This level of mobility made it harder to predict his next move. He was also known to target vulnerable individuals, often passengers in handicapped coaches, which made his crimes even more disturbing. Rahul's criminal history showed a pattern of targeting those who could not defend themselves. This was evident in his choice of victims, which included handicapped passengers and elderly individuals. His ability to blend in and quickly escape made him a difficult target for law enforcement. However, his overconfidence eventually became his downfall. The investigation revealed that Rahul often relied on public transportation to move between locations. This habit, combined with improved CCTV surveillance at railway stations, allowed the police to track him more effectively. The cameras captured his movements, and the distinctive limp became a consistent identifying feature. Rahul's recent release from Jodhpur jail also played a role in identifying him. His records in the criminal database included his name, physical description, and previous offenses. This information was critical in confirming that the man in the footage was indeed Rahul. Despite his attempts to mislead investigators, the evidence against him continued to grow. The investigators' determination to solve the case, along with advances in technology, played a significant role in identifying Rahul. The use of CCTV footage, combined with the physical evidence from the crime scene, provided a clear trail. His criminal record and unique physical traits made it possible to build a strong case against him. However, the next challenge was capturing him before he could harm anyone else. On October 20th, the first known crime in Rahul Jat's killing spree took place in Andhra Pradesh. A woman traveling in a reserved coach for handicapped passengers was found dead. She had been raped and murdered. This was not an isolated incident but the beginning of a series of violent acts that would span multiple states in just 25 days. Investigators would later link this crime to Rahul after piecing together evidence from multiple crime scenes and CCTV footage. At the time, though, there were no clear leads, and the case was treated as a standalone incident. Shortly after, another murder occurred, this time in Karnataka. The details were strikingly similar to the first crime. The victim was also in a reserved coach for handicapped passengers. Rahul's pattern was becoming apparent, though authorities were not yet aware that these cases were connected. He targeted individuals who were vulnerable and less likely to defend themselves. By focusing on these reserved compartments, Rahul ensured his victims had limited options for escape or assistance. This calculated approach gave him the opportunity to act without immediate detection. The third victim in this spree was Soumitra Chatterjee, a 60-year-old tabla player. She was traveling in West Bengal in a reserved coach for handicapped individuals. Like the previous cases, she was found dead. Investigators discovered that her money and jewelry were missing, adding another layer to Rahul's crimes. He was not only killing but also looting his victims, using their belongings to fund his movements and sustain himself as he traveled. This combination of violence and theft showed that Rahul's actions were not driven by a single motive but rather a mix of opportunism and cruelty. By now, Rahul had killed 3 people in a matter of weeks. His fourth and fifth victims followed soon after. On November 14th, in Udvada, Gujarat, a 19-year-old girl became his next target. This crime was particularly disturbing. Rahul not only raped and murdered the young woman but returned to the scene hours later. He intended to assault the body again, but the presence of bystanders and police forced him to abandon this plan. It was at this crime scene that he left behind critical evidence: a bag containing personal items and a jersey that would later help identify him. The fifth known victim was discovered in Telangana. Like the others, this individual was traveling in a reserved coach for handicapped passengers. The circumstances of this murder were consistent with Rahul's established pattern. Each time, he exploited the isolation of these reserved coaches and the vulnerability of the passengers. This calculated approach allowed him to evade immediate detection, as many of these crimes occurred in less monitored areas of the trains. Rahul's behavior during this spree was marked by a disturbing level of confidence. He seemed to believe he could move freely without being caught. This was evident in his decision to return to the Udvada crime scene, thinking he could revisit his crime undetected. He also continued to use public transportation, including trains, as his primary means of travel. This overconfidence ultimately became a critical factor in his capture. His movements were recorded on CCTV, and the distinctive limp caused by his polio made him easier to identify. The connection between these crimes was not immediately obvious to investigators. Each state treated its cases independently until Rahul's name surfaced during the investigation of the Udvada murder. The bag he left behind contained personal items that linked him to the scene. CCTV footage showed a man wearing a jersey found in the bag, and this detail, combined with his physical traits, led police to identify him as the suspect. Once his identity was confirmed, law enforcement agencies across multiple states began coordinating their efforts to track him down. Rahul's history further complicated the investigation. He had been released from Jodhpur jail shortly before the killing spree began. His criminal record included 11 prior cases, ranging from theft to assault. This history showed a pattern of escalating behavior, but it also revealed his experience in evading capture. Rahul was known for misleading investigators, providing false information, and changing his location frequently. These tactics delayed his capture and allowed him to commit more crimes before being apprehended. Despite these challenges, the investigators pressed on. Rahul's limp, which he likely thought made him less suspicious, became one of the most significant clues. Surveillance footage from railway stations consistently showed a man matching his description. This footage, combined with the evidence from the bag and his criminal record, created a strong case against him. Informants also played a role in tracking his movements. A hawker at a railway station recognized him and alerted the police, providing a final lead that led to his arrest. By the time Rahul was captured on November 26 at Vapi railway station, the full extent of his crimes was beginning to emerge. He admitted to killing 5 people in 25 days, 2 of whom he had also raped. However, investigators believe there may be more victims who have not yet been identified. His pattern of targeting vulnerable passengers in handicapped coaches suggests a deliberate strategy to exploit those least able to defend themselves. This focus on handicapped individuals added another layer of cruelty to his crimes. Rahul's spree has raised significant concerns about safety on Indian railways. The isolation of reserved coaches, combined with the limited security on many trains, made it easier for him to commit these crimes. His actions have highlighted the need for better surveillance, increased security measures, and greater awareness among passengers. The role of technology in solving this case, particularly the use of CCTV footage, has been crucial. Without these advancements, Rahul might have continued his spree unchecked. This case is also a reminder of the importance of vigilance. Rahul's arrest was possible because of a combination of evidence, technology, and human intervention. The bag he left behind, the CCTV footage, and the hawker's report were all critical pieces of the puzzle. However, it also underscores the need for stricter monitoring of repeat offenders. Rahul's release from jail, despite his criminal history, allowed him to carry out these crimes. This highlights gaps in the system that must be addressed to prevent similar incidents in the future. The investigation into Rahul's crimes is ongoing. Police are reviewing unsolved cases from the areas he traveled through, looking for connections to other incidents. There is a strong possibility that he has committed additional crimes that have not yet been linked to him. His behavior, marked by a lack of remorse and a willingness to target the most vulnerable, has left a lasting impact on the communities affected by his actions. The story of Rahul Jat is a stark reminder of the risks faced by passengers on public transportation. It is also a testament to the perseverance of law enforcement in solving complex cases. While his capture has brought some measure of justice, it also serves as a warning about the dangers posed by individuals willing to exploit others for their gain. The investigation into the crimes committed by Rahul Jat was one of persistence and the use of available resources to track down a dangerous offender. It began with the discovery of a 19-year-old girl's body in Udvada, Gujarat, on November 14th. She had been raped and murdered. At the scene, investigators found a bag containing personal items, including a jersey. This was the first major lead in what would become a multi-state investigation. Police began reviewing CCTV footage from railway stations near the crime scene. The footage showed a man matching the description of someone who might have owned the bag. This man had a noticeable limp, a physical trait caused by polio. Investigators used this detail to narrow their search, as the limp made him easier to identify. The man in the footage was also wearing a jersey that matched one found in the bag. These connections were enough to build a profile of the suspect. As the footage was reviewed further, law enforcement identified the man as Rahul Jat, also known as Karamveer. Rahul was a 30-year-old man from Rohtak, Haryana. He had recently been released from Jodhpur jail and had a record of 11 prior cases, including theft and assault. His name and details were already in the criminal database, which made it possible to confirm his identity. However, knowing who he was and finding him were two different challenges. Rahul's movements were not limited to Gujarat. Police discovered that he had been traveling across multiple states, including Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and West Bengal. His choice of victims also followed a specific pattern. He targeted passengers in reserved railway coaches for handicapped individuals. These passengers were often isolated, which allowed him to carry out his crimes without interruption. Rahul's preference for this group showed a deliberate effort to exploit vulnerable individuals. While the investigation continued, police began to connect other unsolved cases to Rahul. The murder of a 60-year-old tabla player, Soumitra Chatterjee, in West Bengal was one of them. Soumitra had been found dead in a handicapped coach, and her belongings were missing. This matched Rahul's method of stealing from his victims after killing them. Another case in Andhra Pradesh involved a woman who was raped and murdered under similar circumstances. As more evidence came to light, it became clear that Rahul's crimes spanned at least 5 victims in 25 days. The challenge for investigators was tracking Rahul's movements. He relied on trains to travel between states, using his knowledge of railway routes to stay on the move. This mobility made it difficult to predict his next location. However, the improved quality of CCTV cameras at railway stations worked in the police's favor. Rahul's limp and distinctive appearance made him easier to identify in the footage. An important break in the case came from informants. A hawker at Valsad railway station noticed a man matching Rahul's description and informed the police. This tip provided a critical lead, allowing law enforcement to narrow their focus to a specific area. On November 26, Rahul was finally apprehended at Vapi railway station, just 15 kilometers from the scene of the Udvada murder. Rahul's arrest revealed the extent of his crimes. He confessed to killing 5 people in 25 days, two of whom he had also raped. Investigators believe there may be more victims who have not yet been identified. Rahul's behavior during his spree showed a pattern of calculated actions. He targeted vulnerable individuals, used railway routes to evade capture, and relied on public transportation to remain unnoticed. However, his overconfidence and the evidence he left behind ultimately led to his arrest. The case highlighted the importance of technology and coordination in solving complex crimes. CCTV footage was a key factor in tracking Rahul's movements. The bag he left at the Udvada crime scene provided physical evidence that linked him to the murder. His distinctive limp, while initially overlooked, became one of the most important details in identifying him. Informants like the hawker at Valsad railway station played a critical role in providing timely information. Rahul's criminal history added another layer to the investigation. His release from jail, despite his record, raised questions about the system's ability to monitor repeat offenders. His familiarity with law enforcement procedures allowed him to mislead investigators during his initial interrogations. However, the combination of evidence, surveillance footage, and cooperation between police departments across states ensured that Rahul could not escape accountability. The investigation into Rahul's actions did not stop with his arrest. Police are now reviewing unsolved cases from the areas he traveled through to determine if there are additional victims. Rahul's pattern of targeting handicapped passengers and elderly individuals suggests that his spree may have started earlier than initially believed. This case has also raised awareness about the risks faced by passengers on Indian railways, particularly those traveling alone or in isolated compartments. The arrest of Rahul Jat has brought some closure to the families of his known victims, but it also serves as a reminder of the challenges law enforcement faces in addressing crimes that span multiple jurisdictions. The use of technology, informants, and persistence by investigators were crucial in solving this case. However, it has also highlighted gaps in the system, such as the need for better monitoring of released offenders and improved security measures on trains and at railway stations. Rahul's case stands as a warning about the dangers posed by individuals willing to exploit others for their gain. It also underscores the importance of vigilance, both from law enforcement and the public. The combination of evidence and timely action prevented further crimes, but the story of Rahul Jat remains a sobering reminder of the risks that exist even in places considered safe. After his arrest on November 26, Rahul Jat began to confess to a series of violent crimes that spanned just 25 days. During interrogations, he admitted to killing 5 people, 2 of whom he also raped. These admissions gave investigators a clearer understanding of his actions and revealed a disturbing pattern of targeting vulnerable individuals. Rahul confessed that his preferred targets were passengers traveling in reserved coaches for handicapped individuals. These coaches were often isolated, and the passengers were less likely to defend themselves or call for help. Rahul took advantage of this, knowing that his crimes would go unnoticed until it was too late. This deliberate targeting made his crimes particularly disturbing, as he focused on those who were already in a disadvantaged position. During his interrogation, Rahul also admitted to misleading the police. He provided false information and contradictory statements to delay the investigation and protect himself. This behavior was consistent with his past interactions with law enforcement. Rahul had a long history of criminal activity and had developed tactics to confuse and mislead officers. Despite his efforts, the evidence against him, including CCTV footage and the bag he left at the Udvada crime scene, made it impossible for him to deny his involvement. Rahul's confession included chilling details about his crimes. He admitted that after killing the 19-year-old girl in Udvada, he returned to the scene with the intention of assaulting her body again. However, he fled when he realized that people and police had already discovered the crime. This detail revealed the extent of his depravity and disregard for human life. Investigators also questioned Rahul about other unsolved cases that matched his pattern of targeting vulnerable passengers. While he admitted to 5 murders, police suspect that there could be more victims. His movements across multiple states and the specific nature of his crimes suggest that this spree may have been part of a longer history of violence. Rahul's familiarity with trains and his ability to move between states made it easier for him to evade capture and commit crimes undetected. The investigation into Rahul's actions is ongoing. Police are reviewing unsolved cases in the areas he traveled through to identify potential connections. His preference for handicapped coaches and his tendency to steal from his victims after killing them are key details being used to link him to other incidents. The fact that he managed to commit so many crimes in such a short period has raised concerns about gaps in security and the need for better monitoring of vulnerable passengers. Rahul's admissions have provided crucial insights into his behavior, but they have also raised more questions. How many other crimes has he committed? Are there more victims who have yet to be discovered? Investigators are working to answer these questions while ensuring that Rahul faces justice for the crimes he has already confessed to. This case has highlighted the risks faced by vulnerable passengers and the importance of vigilance on public transportation. Rahul's actions serve as a reminder that systems need to be improved to protect those who are most at risk. His confession has brought some closure to the families of his victims, but the search for the full extent of his crimes continues. Rahul Jat's case has raised significant concerns about safety on Indian railways. Millions of people use the railway system every day, many of them traveling alone or in vulnerable situations. This case has shown how easily someone with harmful intentions can exploit these circumstances. The victims targeted by Rahul were often in reserved coaches for handicapped individuals, a space meant for passengers who need extra assistance. Instead of being safe, they became easy targets. This situation highlights the need for stronger safety measures. Security in railway stations and on trains must be improved to prevent such incidents. Better monitoring, more patrolling staff, and awareness campaigns could help reduce risks for passengers. The introduction of modern technology such as high-quality CCTV cameras has already shown its value in solving this case. Rahul's movements were tracked through CCTV footage, and his distinctive limp helped police identify him. Without this technology, his crimes might have continued unchecked. The judicial system also plays a role in such cases. Rahul had a history of 11 registered cases before this spree, yet he was released from jail and free to commit these heinous crimes. This raises questions about how repeat offenders are monitored after their release. There needs to be stricter measures in place for individuals with a history of violent behavior. Systems that flag repeat offenders and track their movements could prevent further crimes. This case also serves as a reminder for individuals to remain cautious while traveling. Solo travelers, particularly those in isolated or vulnerable situations, should be more vigilant. However, the responsibility cannot fall entirely on passengers. Authorities must ensure that public spaces like railway stations and trains are as secure as possible. Rahul Jat's arrest was a significant achievement for law enforcement, but it also exposed gaps in the system. The focus now should be on addressing those gaps to prevent similar incidents in the future. Better safety measures, improved surveillance, and stricter judicial oversight could make a difference in ensuring such cases don't happen again. Rahul Jat's arrest is a critical success for law enforcement, but it has exposed major concerns about safety on public transportation. This case revealed how easily individuals with criminal intent can exploit vulnerable passengers, especially those in isolated situations like reserved coaches for handicapped individuals. These coaches, designed to assist those who need extra care, became the very places where passengers were least safe. The incidents in this case have highlighted the need for stricter safety measures. Security on Indian railways must be strengthened, not just at stations but also on board trains. More patrolling personnel and better coordination between railway staff and law enforcement can make a significant difference. Technology has already played a key role in this case, particularly the use of high-quality CCTV footage. Without these cameras, tracking Rahul's movements across multiple states would have been far more challenging. This shows that expanding and improving surveillance infrastructure can directly help prevent and solve such crimes. Another issue raised by this case is how repeat offenders are handled by the justice system. Rahul's criminal history included 11 prior cases, yet he was released from jail without adequate monitoring. This raises questions about how individuals with violent pasts are tracked after their release. Establishing systems to monitor such offenders could prevent them from committing further crimes, ensuring better safety for the public. This case is also a reminder for passengers to be cautious, particularly when traveling alone or in isolated areas. However, safety cannot rest solely on individuals. Authorities must take responsibility for creating safer environments on trains and in stations. Passengers should feel secure regardless of their circumstances. While Rahul's arrest is a step toward justice, it also serves as a warning. There is a pressing need to address the gaps in our transportation and judicial systems to prevent similar cases in the future. Raising awareness and improving safety measures must remain a priority to protect travelers and ensure such tragedies do not happen again. If you found this story important and believe more people should hear about it, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you're not just staying informed, you're joining a community committed to shedding light on the stories that matter. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, we can spread awareness and make a difference.